question. I mean, in the initial phases, it was just a project. It was just an assignment that we had to do. Like, oh, let's do it. Group project, yay! But I think there's a few reasons why we wanted to do it. The first one being that as part of the project, we had to go out and speak with potential users and different stakeholders for Dotplot. And as we were speaking with the women who'd potentially be using it, we found that actually this is a serious problem that people are facing. Lots of women are not sure about how to conduct them. I mean, their self-checks, they don't really know how to interpret what it is that they're feeling within their tissue. And so we're thinking, you know what, this is a pain point. This is an opportunity. Let's do something. Let's intervene here.
Oh, hi everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of Pick Up the Mic, where we have amazing guest speakers talking about amazing topics. And what a great guest speaker we've got here today. We'll be talking about all things entrepreneur today and entrepreneurship related today. And we've got an entrepreneur with us today. And I think, as I always say, I don't want to, read off a description about them because I can never do them justice. So that's why I always let our amazing guest speakers speak about themselves. So I'm going to hand over to Debra, who's our guest speaker for today. Debra, could you just please tell us a bit about you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thanks. I'm Debra. I'm from South East London. I've just finished my master's in innovation design engineering. Thank God it's done. So that's been great. What else? I guess before that I was doing product design, which taught me a lot. And now I'm stepping into this startup world, which is super exciting. I guess a bit about my background is that my family is originally from Nigeria. Woo! And what else? I guess an important thing is that I'm a Christian. I'm a very big Jesus fan. That's a bit about me.
Thank you. And what a wonderful introduction. And as always, it's a pleasure to have another Nigerian on the podcast. It's always funny. I think I told one of our previous guest speakers that even now, I always try and judge, by your surname, are you Nigerian? I'm just like, I feel like you could be, but I'm never too sure. But yes, as I said, it's great to have another Nigerian on the podcast and another amazing guest speaker. So I guess first off, the big thing to sort of dive into first is obviously from your speaker page on our website, but also from, briefly from your introduction, you've spoken about that you're going into this whole startup world, you're becoming an entrepreneur in your own right. And I think the best thing that we can ask you is, I know personally that you're a part of an incredible team called Dotplot. And essentially the first question is, what is Dotplot?
What is Dotplot? So Dotplot is a company that I've co-founded with a colleague of mine from our masters. Her name is Shafali, really great person. And we're developing a breast health monitoring tool that guides women through the self-checks that they're supposed to do each month. Because at the moment, it's just a bit of a struggle because there's a lot of confusion around them. There's lots of different ways to do these self-checks. There's not just one standard form of guidance for it. So we're just trying to make the process as foolproof as possible to really help with that early detection of breast cancer. Because as you may know, it's a pretty common cancer, but thankfully when it's caught on time, it's very treatable. So that's what we're trying to do with Dotplot, just catch breast cancer early and get women into the routine of checking their breasts each month.
Wow. And what an incredible thing that you guys are doing. I think, like you said, it's great to see that you guys are essentially, trying to help people, I guess, identify this earlier. Because like you said, 100%, identifying, whether it's to do with just health or anything really, I guess identifying the problem as early as possible is always great because it means that you can work on the treatment or the solution to the problem, which is great. But I guess going on to our next question, which is equally important, is, you told us what Dotplot is, but why did you and your team decide to start Dotplot?
Yeah, good question. I mean, in the initial phases, it was just a project. It was just an assignment that we had to do. Like, oh, let's do it. Group project, yay! But I think there's a few reasons why we wanted to do it. The first one being that as part of the project, we had to go out and speak with potential users and different stakeholders for Dotplot. And as we were speaking with the women who'd potentially be using it, we found that actually this is a serious problem that people are facing. Lots of women are not sure about how to conduct them. I mean, their self-checks, they don't really know how to interpret what it is that they're feeling within their tissue. And so we're thinking, you know what, this is a pain point. this is an opportunity. Let's do something. Let's intervene here. And as we went forward, we spoke about it with lots of specialists, people in industry, like oncologists and radiologists. They're like, yeah, this could really help women to do these checks themselves. So at home. So that was that validation that we got, that this is actually a project that's got legs that we can take forward. So that was a big thing. And I guess the last point was just entrepreneurship in general wasn't something that I thought I was going to be going into at all. Not that it didn't appeal to me or that I didn't like it. I just didn't think I was cut out for it or that I had the skills. So on my side, at least, it's been just like a bit of a self-challenge to see how far can we push this. And yeah, where could Dotplot go? So that was kind of the main reasons why we wanted to push it forward. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. And I think, two things I think that you highlighted there that are really important is one, 100%. I know at an event I was at where they had an entrepreneur, the entrepreneur basically raised the same thing, that the amount of, he said the amount of projects that university students, or even I guess any student does over their education, and they're just like, the coursework or the task might be come up with a solution to a problem, or identify something by speaking to people and come up with a product to help them. And the amount of times people are just like, okay, cool, so I've done this for the assignment, great, I'm going to move on, go carry on with life. And it's just like, no, actually, like you said, you've identified that this is something actually a lot of people want. Even having people in the field that helped with the treatment process saying, actually, this would be really great to have, shows that, clearly this is something that should be used. And it's great to see that you went off and did that. And I think the second thing that's really key is kind of like what you were saying there about challenging yourself, because I feel like as young people, we have, or even people in general, I guess, there's this tendency, like, you have to have everything right. Like, if you want to start a business, you have to have like all these like things sorted out first before you can even announce that, hey, I've started a business. You have to have your website right. You've got to have business cards. You've got to this. And it's just like, no, well, yes, that's great to have everything sorted and everything, ready to go. But sometimes you just need to be able to say, you know what, I've got an idea and I'm going to start. And it's just learning and developing as you go. I've said it before in previous episodes. I say it to the team whenever we talk about the podcast, that when we look back on our first episode, we always find it funny because we were just like, people seem to really like the episode, but all the three of us, Samuel, Nanushka, and myself, we all just felt that it was really awkward. We were just like, this feels like really awkward, or this doesn't feel like, that great. And, it's funny to, I guess, look back at other episodes and be like, wow, actually I can see that I've, found my style, or I've been able to, see how I've influenced people over the many seasons. And I think, yeah, like you said, it's just about being at that stage of like trying stuff. Because I know, and we'll move on to the next question after this, but I know especially when it comes to stuff like Instagram and, you're trying to market your, obviously as a podcast, we're a service, so we're trying to market that. And it's kind of like, I know the first thing that I was thinking of is, oh my gosh, everyone, who has like some social media presence always has their face. So I was just like, we have to, put our face out there somewhere and do stuff. And it's just like, no, you can find your style and you can find your thing. So I remember like when we started doing Reels, that was the thing that I was just like, oof, I don't know how Reels are going to go. I don't really use Reels myself. Will people even watch them? Will they like it? And it's just great to see that, it has helped the page to grow. So I definitely feel like you said, it's just about being able to say, I want to try something, if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, not. And I think at this age of being young or whatever age you're at, it's always good to be able to say, even if I did try this and it didn't work, I've still got other options, or it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work. I promise this is the last thing. There's a really interesting video, and if I can find it, I'll include it in the episode. There's a really interesting video of this entrepreneur who I believe is in America, and he basically had this like food vending machine thing that he was basically just like, people could buy meals from vending machines, not, I guess, like pre-made meals. All you'd have to do is just put in a microwave. And I was like, that's a really cool idea. And we watched it in class, and essentially the person was just like, yeah, so I tried it and it lasted about 6 months and then I had to shut it down. And he was just like, it sucked because he had to apologize to everyone, his workers, the companies he was working with. And he was just like, it really hurt. And it was really like sad. And he said essentially he put out a story there and was just like, it's, as an entrepreneur, it's tough to see yourself fail, but I've failed, and this is what happened, and these are the lessons learned. And I think the crazy thing is he learned from that like he said that other people in industry who are higher up were just like, hey, that is amazing that you've put your story out there. Don't feel like this is the end, because hey, I was literally in your shoes, and now I'm in charge of like a big company, and now my company is really successful. And luckily he was able to start something else, and that one was really successful. And now he goes around, I think in America, but also maybe worldwide. But he does the same thing of saying, hey, I tried something, it didn't work, and I didn't let that stop me. I just said, hey, let me try and think of something else. Let me see the lessons learned. And I think that that's the most important thing, that as being an entrepreneur, we can essentially do. Just, accept that not everything's going to go your way, but that doesn't mean if it doesn't go your way, that's the end, that you can't, find something to learn about it. I think the best thing to say to that is my dad always says, in everything, whether it's a good story or a bad story, or whether something went your way or it didn't, there's always like a lesson that you can learn from it and say, well, actually, taking that into account or thinking about that, this is what, for next time I would change, or things like that. It's always really good to think about those things. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, some nice stories there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, going on to the next question. This is all, I guess, if there's anyone listening, and they're thinking, wow, Debra just has shown me, the importance of being an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur in her own right, it's great to see the things that she's doing, and she's going out there and trying new things. They might be thinking, wow, starting a business is something that I want to do. And essentially our next question is about how has starting a business prepared you for the working world? And we're going to start this section, or we're going to link this question to our new segment from previous season, which was Mic Check, where we put, some interesting stats, some figures and facts. And essentially we've got some on entrepreneurship. So essentially talking about entrepreneurship in general and small businesses, and these come from HubSpot, which is essentially, they've got this website that's got some like over 60 facts, and again I won't be going through all of them, but essentially they were saying different things. So this data is all from between 2019 to 2020. And essentially there's a few that I think really pop out, is that they said the entrepreneurship rates have been trending upwards in the US for the last 19 years. They also said in 2020, there were approximately 33.7 million small businesses in the US, accounting for basically almost 99.9% of businesses within the US. They said the small businesses in the US employ about 60.6 million people. And I guess I should sort of quantify that when we say small businesses, this usually means from I believe, because it's been a while since I had to do this in class, but I believe that it's basically from 0 employees to about 50, because I think medium is like 100, is from 50 to over. Yeah, I think that's right. But essentially it's a very small number of people that are employed. So I guess one other fact to add to that is it was saying that the US has the highest rate of early stage entrepreneurship in the developed world at 15.6%. So I guess, all these facts show essentially that entrepreneurship is something that is increasing in the last couple of years. It's looking like it's probably going to increase even more, which is going to be really great for people who are looking to go into the working world. So going back to the question, Debra, how can starting a business, or how has starting a business prepared you, and how could it also prepare others for the working world?
A few things I say. The first thing is that you really don't need to know everything about your industry before you step into it. I think that was one thing that kind of made me feel a bit daunted before saying yes to beginning a startup. Because our product sits within the medtech space, medical technology, and although I was really interested in this space before, coming to uni, I just love the idea of medical technology. I felt that because my A-levels or my background didn't really fit with that, I just didn't pursue it much. But now, after stepping into it and seeing that, first of all, it's not just, you're not ever going into entrepreneurship alone. Well, not really. I don't really know any businesses that just stand with just one person chilling on their own. That there is just such a bank of knowledge with so many people that you can be tapping into, and there's no need to feel that you need to know absolutely everything before you begin a business in whatever industry you're trying to work within. So that's been really, really helpful. Just understanding that as long as you're open to learning and being a sponge and soaking up as much knowledge as you can, you're sorted. You're already like miles ahead. So that's been reassuring for me, and just seeing that actually, even within the working world, you're not just doing things on your own. You're always going to be, I don't know, within like a network of people that you can reach out to just ask for guidance or mentorship or this or that. So you're just not doing it alone. It's also shown me like what kind of work I do and don't want to be involved in. So I think, before starting with Dotplot, I thought that I wouldn't be interested in a role where you're working on one project for a really long time. I was like, because all the work experience I had before was quite like short projects that just came and ended. So I was like, oh no, that's just not for me. I'm not doing anything long term. But after working on this, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many aspects of building a business, and there's just so much to grasp and develop and implement. So it's been eye-opening for sure. So I say it's prepared me in that it's opened my mind to opened up my understanding of what entrepreneurship actually is by just jumping into it without, I don't know, like overthinking, oh, do I need to have a background in this or that? Or just go for it. And just learn as you go. So that's been really useful. What else has it prepared me for? I'd say it's shown me again that your like learning doesn't end when your formal education does. So I thought, okay, after I've gone to uni, finished my master's, that's it. I'm done with learning. But you really just learn on the go. You keep picking up new things, picking up this, and a lot of my learning has come from people. Whereas before starting with Dotplot, a lot of it was just resources, and which is fine. But yeah, just speaking with people has enriched my understanding of entrepreneurship so much, which has been great. So yeah,
I definitely think that's so true. There is definitely that tendency to be like, hey, I have to basically have everything, like we said before, about having everything figured out. But it's just like, no, there will only be some things that you learn on the go. Like no matter how many times you can do like customer profiles or research or, testing, there's only some things that you'll just learn by doing what you're doing. And it's one of those things where until you've, I guess, get to that point where you're just like, actually, this is the plan, this is what I want to do. Those are the only things that you'll be able to then actually take those lessons on. And I think, like you're saying as well, it's being okay with not knowing everything as well. So I guess the first point was more towards learning, but being okay with not knowing everything is definitely true. And I know that we've brought that up in a previous episode anyways, about just working in general, that is saying that like, so the person applied to be like a technician in a lab, and they were saying, I've never worked in a lab before, I don't have the experience. But she was saying that all the work that she did was just stuff that, she was learning on the job. And I think people have a tendency to think that, that is something that you basically can't do. As a graduate, you're supposed to apply all this knowledge that you learned in your course and all the stuff you did on your coursework, and you're basically like turn up to the job, and they'll just be like, okay, so we're not going to train you. This is what you're going to do it. See you in a couple of weeks once you've finished these tasks. And it's just like, no, that's not how the job works. Even if you whether you had worked in the organization before or not, it's always about training people, making sure they know things. If they don't, then giving them the training so they can do things. And I think that, like you said, that's one of the things that entrepreneurship definitely teaches you. I know even like looking at resources for podcasting, like we use Buzzsprout, and they do all these like really great videos of talking about like, hey, if you're interested in podcasting, these are some ways you can come up with like interesting titles, or like here are these lessons that you should avoid. I know that as a sort of like a university, that they through our entrepreneurship hub, that they also do like workshops on like, this is what you need in a business model canvas, this is what you need when you do pitching. And I think that that's one of the things that generally as people, we do tend to forget. We feel like, you have to know everything to start a business. And it's, I guess, to end on it, it's just like you were saying before, Deborah, that it's, I'm not saying that anyone who started a business doesn't know all the facts, but in the same sense of, I don't know, if you like Microsoft, for example, I'm not sure if Bill Gates necessarily would know much about HR, but he's got a head of HR for a reason, because that person will know more about HR. And it's kind of like what you're saying, that, within businesses, that's why you have different roles, because there will be someone who's a tech specialist who can help you with tech. There'll be someone who's great at social media and marketing, and that's their job. And it's just being able to know that, yes, I don't need to know everything. And once I get to the position where I can start employing people, or, I start to build up my team, I can just be okay and just say, hey, look, I don't know much about design, but you are a graphic designer. I really would love if you could take on board designing these things. Or, hey, I don't know much about marketing, but hey, if you want to market, you can market for us, and type thing. And I feel like that, especially when it comes to the working world, is something that organizations, I mean, yes, you're not getting paid. So I'm not saying as a graduate, if you can get a proper paid job, that you should do this. But it definitely is a good thing to have on your CV to say that, yeah, I helped a startup, or I helped a few startups as a graphic designer. Or, hey, one of my friends started up like their own business, and they asked me to essentially design some things for them, and I did it for free, because it shows that, yes, you may have graduated, even if you graduated in 2020, like straight during the pandemic, probably wasn't a lot of jobs available anyways. You could always just be like, yes, I graduated in 2020, but like for the last 2 years, I've been helping different startups with their graphic design needs, or to designing their websites or their marketing, building up their portfolio type thing. Because an organization would be like, wow, this person was proactive and was doing things, rather than just, I guess, settling for something that they didn't necessarily want to do. But yeah, that was really great. And I know, well, I guess Debra doesn't know I was going to ask this question, but it came to my head, and I thought it is good, before we ask the last official question of this episode, to ask is, so as I mentioned before, there might be some people listening who either have started businesses, and I'm more than happy to give some tips as well, but there might be some people who started businesses, might be people thinking of starting businesses, and they might be saying, hey, Debra, what's like 3 pieces of advice that you would give to me to say, these are things that I learned, or these are things that if I was in your position, I would have loved to have known?
Oh, wow. 3 pieces of advice. The first thing is to never underestimate the power of reaching out and networking with people. Oh my goodness. I used to be like LinkedIn adverse. I'm not going to averse even. I was like, no, that's not for me. I don't do that. But wow, it's such a powerful tool. Not just LinkedIn, obviously. There's so many other ways to network as well. But really leveraging that can be so beneficial for you. Because like I say, a lot of the things that we've learned as a team have been from observing or speaking with people who have gone ahead of us and done similar things. And so we're just able to grasp so much insight into how you can proceed and what's the best way forward. And so, yeah, I would say definitely make the most of the people around you. Reach out to whoever and wherever, and also consider how you can be of value to the people that you're networking as well. Like if I don't know if there's anything that came up in a workshop I had recently that I hadn't thought about too much, but you can always consider what you can bring to the table as well when you're speaking with other people. The second thing would be to to you're making me think now. It's quite second thing would be to keep a really open mind when it comes to developing your business, definitely, and listen to people's advice that they give you, but also think about what your values are as the start of your business, and how you can bring that into it. Because I think if you're quite closed-minded about how you want to proceed, it can create so many blockers. So, for example, if there's a way that you're reaching out with your customers that's not really working, and you're just completely resistant to any form of modification or change, that can be a barrier for you. Or if I don't know, there's just an aspect of your service that isn't really going well, and you're refusing to change that can be problematic as well. So I'd say just be flexible in in your approach, because that's what we've tried to do, because we had plans on how we wanted to see Dotplot move forward. We were like, okay, by this time we're going to have this done and this done and this done and this done. But you speak to people and it doesn't work out like that. So just being open and understanding that business moves quickly sometimes, moves slowly sometimes, and you just gotta keep up with that. But yeah, that's what I'd say. Keep it flexible and be willing to learn. And the last one would be advice would be I'd say be a sponge. Don't try and rely on your own understanding or knowledge of anything. I would say definitely just just pick up as much as you can and take time to rest. Oh my goodness, like be a sponge, but take time to rest as well. Like don't feel like you have to go 100 miles per hour at every point. You really do need to have that balance, because startups can be so exciting. I remember when we first started off, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. Wow. I didn't think I was going to be doing this. Here we are. And you can just feel like you want to be going and going and going and going and going, but you do burn out. And that started to happen a few months ago. I was like, okay, Debra, you need to take a break. So I think I've done like 3.5 pieces of advice there. Sorry. But I definitely say, yeah. I think the rest one is so critical. Just take time to breathe, because you will see other people and their development and how quickly they're moving and feel like, oh no, I think I need to keep up with that pace. But you've got your plans, you've got your milestones. Just stick to your goals and don't feel like you need to be keeping up with anyone else's pace. But yeah. Unless, of course, you're falling behind and that's a problem. But otherwise, take it easy.
No, that's so true. And yeah, I definitely think all three of those are amazing. I do think 100%, like you said, like rest and networking is definitely, especially for young people, isn't seen as something that you're not necessarily taught to do, but you should. We literally had an episode about like the importance of networking, and we did say like LinkedIn, like you said, there is loads out there, but 100% LinkedIn is like a good one. Most of the time, I think as well, people have that tendency to think, oh my gosh, if I send a request to like this person, they don't know me, we didn't go to the same university. Oh gosh, they're not, they might not accept. But they don't care. This isn't social media. This is actually a platform where you're looking like, people are looking for employees and they're looking for people who stand out. And one of the things that we did raise in that episode is be that person who stands out. So, if it's, I don't know, you've always wanted to work for Marvel and you wanted to be an animator for Marvel, and by chance you found someone who posts some stuff that you really like, and you're just like, wow, wouldn't it be great to just, speak to them and just be like, hey, I'm an animator, I would love to work for Marvel one day, like, could you be my mentor, or could you just tell me some bits of advice? And you'd be surprised that yes, and I guess in every typical thing, it sucks to get rejected or no one to respond. But there will definitely be people who are just like, yeah, that's cool. Just, send me your CV or send me some animation you've done and I'll look over it, give you my advice. And yeah, I'll keep you in touch if there's any jobs. Because yeah, I think that, like we said, people generally do think that that's not something that's okay or that's not allowed, but 100% it is definitely something that's so true. I think for me, I won't give 3 because, like I said, a lot of them are ones that you have said. I think one that I definitely want to raise is use the resources available to you. Because 100%, I feel like, especially I know at Brunel, for example. So I know that and obviously, Debra's raised this, that she's applied through the Imperial's Entrepreneur Lab to do their competition, and she won, and she got funding for that. But I know that at Brunel, we also have like a 10,000 one, and the amount of students that generally don't know that funding exists, you're just like, oh yeah, so I applied for this competition. What? You can get money for a startup? Yeah. They were just like, oh my gosh, do you have to have like a business plan and have everything sorted? And, and you're just like, no, you just need to have an idea, be prepared to speak about the idea. And that's really, and they're just like, no, that can't be true. And yeah, 100%. I think that's so true. I know at least with Brunel's one that you can apply as many times as you want through your degree, so whether it's an undergrad or a postgrad, and you can then apply 3 years after graduating, and you can apply with as many ideas as you want. So if you want to apply with they obviously said if you apply with 30 ideas, yes, that's great, but that's a bit much. But yeah, even if you applied with 3 ideas that you're passionate about, and you're just like, hey, I really would love for these to be something that I could start up one day. go for it. And I think that, yeah, that's one of the things that people generally do sometimes forget. They just think, I'm at uni, I just need to get my degree, get out, start working. And it's like, no, there are a lot of resources that can support you to essentially get to the point where you can start your own business. So I definitely would say use, like I said, most universities will have some form of entrepreneur lab or hub or team that essentially help with business starting and startups. So I definitely recommend checking out those. But yeah, I think the only other piece of advice, which kind of like what Debra was saying, is the understanding of like you're on your own path. Because I think, like you said, there is a tendency, and people call it because of social media and because we see like the end product, but we don't see the journey. There's that tendency to feel like, okay, I started this business, it's been a year, I've heard this other person who's got the exact or similar business. They've been doing it for either the same time or maybe less, and they've got like 100,000 followers or 100,000. And it's just understanding that, you don't have to, you're not on that path. You could have less followers, but it's more about like those, like you said, those individual milestones. And I think, so two key things linking to that I saw. One of them was literally today. And that I thought was really interesting, because this person was saying that as individuals, we have a tendency to think that actually, the more, as a business at least, if you've got loads of followers on social media or, loads of people subscribe to your mailing list on your website, that suddenly means that you are successful or, your business will grow. And he was saying that actually, no, there's loads of articles or there's loads of research that can show individuals who have like 2 million followers and some of them may be bots, but most of them are real people and they don't make money. Like they've got a business that's struggling. And then they were saying, but there are some people who might have like, I don't know, like 1,000 followers, make up to, I don't know, like 50,000 a month. And it's because it's all about their I guess their followers are genuine people who are interested in what the person is doing, whether they're selling products or a service, and they're just invested in this idea of the person. And it's about it's the same thing with I guess being an entrepreneur, of whether you start a business or whether you want to just be a consultant or whatever, that it's about not comparing yourself to someone else and being like, yeah, we started at the same time and they've started a successful business and I'm here and I'm just doing a lot of work by myself, or I'm not where I want to be. It's about saying, okay, cool. So I'm going to give myself, a goal in 6 months' time. Like, no matter what, I'm not going to change it. This is where I want my numbers to be. And then making sure that you get as close as possible to that. And if you get it, great. If you get it before the 6 months, you can be like, okay, so I'm now going to move it up a bit, see where we go in the next 6 months. If you don't get it by the end of the 6 months, you could think, why? Like you were saying, is it because of the way that I'm marketing to my customers? I think that's 100%. That's so true that, as startups, we have a tendency to not really think much about, like, I know the thing that sort of like it's taken me a while to like get into was search engine optimizations or SEOs, and like looking into that and seeing that, yeah, if you have a business, you're going to have to, whether it's on Instagram or your website or whatever, to make sure that people know about it, you have to have those optimizations. And I think that that's so key, that as individuals, we sometimes just generally forget, and we're just like, we have to compare ourselves to others, or we have to do this, or if we don't reach milestones, that means we're somehow failing. And it's just like, no, we just need to make attainable goals, and just, it can be, like you said, as simple as just saying like, okay, so I don't know, I've got pottery that I sell on Instagram. In the next month, I want to get at least 10 loyal followers that follow me. They're asking me questions about my pottery. They're genuinely interested, and I want to build on that. So for every month, I get at least 10 followers, and I'm going to try my best to interact with all of them. Whether it's I send them messages to just say thanks for following, or I do a live so I can interact with them and things like that. Because I think, like you said, 100%, it's just that tendency to overthink and think that we're somehow doing something wrong is definitely something that people do feel. That's
such a good point. You have to really consider what your metrics of success are going to be, because otherwise you'll just be thinking that you're behind all the time when really you're just a different team to someone else. Recently I've been watching a lot of Dragon's Den and sometimes people come onto there and they get and it gets scrutinized, obviously, understandably. But sometimes I just feel like the questions they ask is like, you've been running for, I don't know, 2 years now. And we can't really see your growth. We can't really see this. And I'm just like, you just don't understand the situation. You don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think you really just have to stick to, look at your milestones. I think, how are we going to get there? Break them down, like you said, and just keep your goals in mind and not stress too much about what people are doing around you, unless of course you're falling behind. But yeah, yeah, have your own metrics of success, man, because
100%.
it's critical.
No, 100%. And it's, I think like you were saying about the Dragon's Den thing is, with anything, you're always going to have, like, I'm not, like you were saying before about getting genuine feedback and criticism is not bad. That is actually good, and it's good to let you know where you can improve. But in typical things with anything that you do, there's always going to be people that just basically will either, not like your success or won't like what you're doing, and they'll be complaining. And it's just about, thinking that I'm not going to let that get to me. And, it does. I'm not saying that it's an instant thing of, someone said that my product or my service is really rubbish. So now I'm like, just going to ignore it this one day and it will never come back to me. But it's essentially about like just focusing and thinking, I'm going to prove that person wrong. I think there was, who was it? I think it was Steve Harvey. I feel like it was still Steve Harvey said it. Like he invited, basically, I think there was a teacher that basically said like he would never make it, and he invited that person to be on the Steve Harvey show, and he was just like, you said that I would never make it, I wouldn't be anything big, and here I am, I've got my own show, I've done all of this, I've been in this many movies, and I invited you here today to just show you that this is actually where I am, and I guess take it or leave it, clearly your words didn't affect me. And it's just the same thing of like I do try and encourage and say like, I'm not saying you should do things to just get back at people, but I'm not going to lie and say that it's not a gratifying feeling to just be like, people didn't think that an event you would do or, a business that you would start would be successful. And then you can look back and just be like, these people didn't think I was going to make it, but look, I did. And I guess to end this question, I think the funniest thing that I recently saw was, I don't remember which Grammy Award ceremony it was, but there was one where essentially I think people were just like, oh my gosh, Kanye West, this was like early 2000s, it was like Kanye West might not win, Kanye West, isn't going to win. And then, so he won, and he basically like did his speech, and it was really funny because he was on stage and he was just like, oh, loads of people are asking me like, if I didn't win, what would I do? And then he was just like, well, he's holding his trophy and he was just like, well, I guess we'll never know. And then walked off stage. And I was just like, you know what? That is a gratifying feeling to just be like, hey, people were saying I wasn't going to make it. Well, I guess I did. And I guess we'll never know what would happen if I didn't. But yeah, no, I think that's so true. And I think it's just like, not, like you said, like not letting people's opinions affect you. Yes, getting genuine criticism. And I'm not saying that you should never get criticism, because again, it's important to learn and develop your business as you go on. But there, like I say, with everything, there's always going to be those groups of people that no matter what you do, they will not be supportive, or they'll have all loads of criticisms can be quite harsh, quite rude. And it's just about being like, you might not believe in this dream, but there is somewhere, even if it's, I believe in this dream, and there is someone that needs my service or my product, and I'm going to make sure that they get it no matter what. Exactly. And I think that's so true.